We are live right now.
Nice.
We are live on YouTube and on Twitter. If I go to my Twitter, I bet I can repost it and say, "We are live, everybody." Okay, so this is the outlining versus pantsing um, talk.
All right.
So I am very much in the outlining camp. Where
Okay.
do you guys sit?
Okay. So I'm definitely an outliner as well. Like very, very strategically so.
Okay.
I wish I was. I am definitely the opposite. I tried to outline for my last book. I got like 7 sentences of outlining and then said, "Nope, I wanna write." So,
That's yeah. If I don't outline though, if I pants, I go on a journey and I completely lose I don't have the self-control to pants properly. So when you are pantsing, how do you rein yourself in or do you at all? Like what is your method?
I wish I knew that at this point. Honestly, that's why I admire outliners and I've tried to do it, but I really like taking the journey with my characters and having no idea what I'm doing. The problem is then it becomes a lot more character based, which some people obviously don't like. So you're missing out on key details that people might not enjoy, but part of being an author to me and is just going on the journey with them. I am running into an issue in my current book 3 that I'm doing where I kind of wish I outlined because
Mhm.
now it's just little minuscule things that I'm like staring at and I'm like, I don't know if I want this or not, or I don't know if I want to go that way or not. So I kind of do wish I did like at least I don't know, I call it a why. I don't know if there's an actual term for it, but when you do the branch, when people
Yeah.
that like, yeah, and be like, I could go this way or I could go this way.
Mm,
My method is whenever I begin a project, my first kind of outlining draft I do is basically a quickly written periods only short story of the entire thing. I
okay.
sit down and I try to write like I am Cormac McCarthy, and I have no punctuation other than periods. I'm very very direct, and um, so the first draft of the story is usually around 20 pages, but it's a
Oh,
very brisk, very fast short story.
Huh.
And if that short story, by the end of it, if that feels good or if it feels bad, I don't have that much. I have to go back and tweak to get it to feel good. And once I have that created, I can then take that and I can make my actual outline from that. That'll be like my raw ore that I take from when I go to my novel.
that's interesting. I actually use flashcards. So what I do is once I have an initial concept, I'll write down scenes that sort of fit that concept. Say, okay, this could happen. This could happen. Oh, maybe I should do something with this. And then once I have a pretty good collection, I put them on flashcards. That way I can rearrange the order to make sure like one thing leads into the next, it leads into the next. Or sometimes I'll realize there's gaps. I'll say, okay, I go here and then I want to go here, but I need something else here. So then I'll write something else. And then once I have all my flashcards in order, I just write just an outline that's just basically this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens.
Mhm.
And then I go off of that. And my first draft is always like really small because I don't do a lot of details. And then I just kind of add details as needed. So I'll say, oh, this character is supposed to be cool, but he doesn't really do anything cool. Or, oh,
Yeah.
really, the story really hinges on this relationship, but these two, they don't really do much together. I need to establish their friendship more, things like that.
Mhm.
Huh. Do you guys ever run in I know my friend that plots has really nice plotting, but then runs into always being blank in the middle, like of
Mhm.
where like of the checkpoints. I don't run into that personally because like I said, I just go with my character, so it's made up as it goes, so it feels
Yeah.
fluid. But my friend that I talk to a lot, she says that her plotting is really nice and she knows where she's going, but a lot of times she runs into a blank of how to get there.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. When you're relying too much on your bullet points of this is my checklist of things I got to do. Once you hit those checklists, uh, we run into this a lot in programming. When we're doing an app or a website, we make these things called issues, And we'll have an issue. They'll be like, make the button blue. That's a very simple issue to do. That's very straightforward. They make the button blue. Another issue might be, we need to have this app talk to this app and send notifications. And they're like, well, hang on. There's a lot of things buried in that little issue. So we'll jump into that issue. From that, we'll make 10 new issues of a bunch of little things we got to do. So often when I run into that kind of problem in an outline, I know, okay, this is a bullet point that contains 20 other bullet points. So I need to sit down and really get into that mode of thinking to kind of figure out what I got to do. And oftentimes with Song of Bones, happens a lot. Those characters are so full in my head. They're so real. If I get to a point that's a little bit hazy, my characters know what to do. Right? They see the next thing they got to do. So I follow them. Sometimes they take me down little tangents. Sometimes they don't. It just depends. So that's the closest I get to pantsing in my later drafts.
Yeah. So I know for me personally, I don't, just because I know my first draft is always going to be really short. So I'll just write what I have. So if I come across a scene and I know I want it to be like an epic fight scene or something, if I don't have it in my head, I'll just do like 1 or 2 moves and the fight scene will initially just be really short. And then, I'll come back to it later. Gotcha. So, or, like I write, my first draft is full of a lot of, he punched him in the face, just straightforward. He punched him in the face or they fight. Little George Lucas nod there, if you know that. I don't know if any of you saw that behind the scenes
footage. They do a punch in the face. And we'll figure out later.
Yeah. As part of
I was just gonna say, I like that to some extent. I mean, my first drafts are still kind of like that, but unlike you guys, I'm sure I don't add a lot in my later drafts, even with my editors. A lot of it's just fine tuning. So, because I don't really like adding. And I think that might be a big difference maybe for pantsers versus plotters. I don't know. Maybe just because the way the writing is different, like it differentiates.
I'm not sure because I've never sat down to do so I can't imagine completing a pantsing project. So I think the comment that kind of sparked this discussion was I think I said something along the lines of everybody outlines even pantsers, but they outline different. So what I meant by that is if I were to pants, or when I'm doing my initial outline, my initial crappy short story, the outline for that, even though I'm kind of pantsing, is in my head. And the outline is basically character A wants this. Character A has this problem. That's step 1 of the outline. Step 2 of the outline is he tries to get the thing, and because of his own problems, doesn't get the thing. Then I do that 3 more times. And each time in between, I give him a chance to fix himself. Would you like to fix yourself? He'll say no, and he'll do something else. Fix yourself? No. And the final time, he either says, okay, I will fix myself, and the day is saved, or he'll say no, and we end in tragedy and death and sadness. So that's the most basic outline that exists in my head. So even if I'm working in a very pantsy way, I'm still working off some kind of outline because I have that story structure in my head. So Timothy, when you are pantsing, do you have any kind of story structure in your head that you're trying to hit, or is it literally just character?
With the new novel with Flame of Alamandraz, I had very, very vague, I would say. With Tales, nothing. I thought at first I thought very black and white. This is my hero. This is my villain. It all changed. More characters made themselves clear, and it just kind of happened, which is, it's not the best work that an author's ever done. It's even, book 1 is from book 1 to book 3. I've changed a lot even. So there's a significant difference, but it was my most fun journey that I've had writing for that reason. Cause I was so with my characters and into them and followed them along and let them do their thing. Gotcha. I originally had like some idea of who the villain and who the hero was, but then it changed. So it wasn't like obviously not a very good outline in my head even. But for Flame of Alamandraz, I did have a point A to point B, just literally nothing in between.
Right. But you had an end goal. You had an idea of where you ended up.
A very, very vague one. I don't know if I'd consider it an outline. I'd consider it like a sticky note that was kind of like maybe this that I slapped on a fridge somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I wanted to jump into something you said just a little bit earlier when you said you don't like to add things. Well, I know in my case I have to, just because my first draft is so bare bones. Like my first novel, I think was like 286 pages. The first draft was like maybe 90, and some of those were handwritten. So like typed up, it probably would have been closer to 60.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, from paper to computer is different, I think, but just because you're automatically going to insert things as you're going along and reading.
Yeah.
I feel like the few people I know that do pants, I feel like a lot of their issue is deleting words, because sometimes they just get really into it and they just add a lot of stuff that then their editors or themselves declare as unnecessary. I mean, I know, forgot who it was, someone else that says they're a pantser, they just deleted like 40,000 words out of their novel.
Oh,
Yeah. So maybe it's also just writing style. Maybe it's less pantsing versus plotting and more even just writing style or what is necessary afterward. Because I do think I try to be a precise writer, and I don't try to do. I mean, I'm not an elegant prose writer in my poetry, maybe, but not in my fantasy as much. So, like, I do write a little more straightforward, I think. So maybe that's also a difference.
Does your writing style change depending on the character you're following?
No, not really. I think it's actually funny going to university and thinking about it, because I've been doing this all day. I've been thinking about my reading in university and what they taught us. And, even in the short stories, they're like, hey, write your character out and their goal and their personality, just like a few of these traits. And I wish I actually adhered to that. And it makes me realize that I wasted a lot of money in college because I don't listen to anything they told me. Or at least I don't utilize it as much as I should. And I was thinking about it after the post, actually. I was like, we went through all these, like, even these little tiny outline techniques that then I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to write. And some of that just might be time constraints. If I was like a full-time author and could sit at home and and if my brain didn't work too fast for the rest of me, if I wasn't like, oh, I need to get this down, I want to do this, because I am terribly impatient.
Yeah. For me, it really, really helps me hone in my imagination. If I know that my main character's issue is lying, that's his core problem is he lies. Well, what kind of world would that be a good thing? What kind of world would that be a bad thing? And how is that helps define my world building, starting from that core issue with the character. Helps me decide what the villain's going to be like, what his friends are going to be like, and how does all that relate to him lying about stuff. So I like having that limitation because it forces me to come up with things that are strange or unique or weird. Or so I think it's, even if it's like a 2-minute exercise, I think it's crazy helpful to sit down and think through, what does my character want? What does he actually need? And what are his little, maybe maybe not his the outline of the plot, but at least his character arc.
Right.
Figure out,
I do think that's beneficial. I think my big issue, and I think it's just my mind, I've learned I'm just really awkward in my thinking, that if I write it down as a plot, like if I write this character does this, I'm not gonna be able to change it, because my mind is, this is how I work. If I write something down, I'm not gonna be able to change it. Whereas like in Tales 1, who I originally thought was gonna be a villain totally changes throughout the novel. A lot of people, from what they tell me, what they've messaged me, is they really, really hate him at first, hope he dies, and then by the end they kind of adore him. And I feel like I would have lost that probably if I would have plotted, just because of how I would view my plot.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have been like, no, this is the point I set down. This was my purpose. So like, that's what it is.
You do lose that flexibility by deciding this is what you're going to do from the beginning.
Right.
I would not completely agree with that, just because just at least I'm of the mind that there has been times where I have deviated from the outline a bit, if I felt it was necessary, or sometimes you do realize there's certain problems. But one of the biggest benefits I see in it, in terms of like being able to be creative, is sometimes you could think of two ideas that are like, they don't seem like they should fit together. And I think if you're doing it, simultaneously, you do this idea and then you have this idea, and you're like, oh, but it doesn't really fit like that. But if you think of it in the beginning, you can say, okay, I want to do this idea and I want to do this idea. What could I put here that would then connect those two ideas?
Yeah.
So I actually feel, because that's really my biggest thing. Like, obviously, anyone could do what they want to do. I just hate the stigma that outlines stifle creativity, because I just think that's completely untrue.
Yeah.
I think that's why I was saying I think it's mindset. I think for my mindset, if I were to plot, like if I were to, I would probably plot too densely, first of all. And I think I'm so rigid in my mind. Like if I, in real life, whatever I do, if I'm like, I'm going to do this, there's no turning back. Everybody knows that I'm literally like a mule. I will, if I'm like, I'm going to run into this wall 100 times, I'm going to do it unless I die. But, and I think I would do the same thing if I plotted. I think I would literally be like, no matter what, I'm making this work. So I think for myself, it would stifle me, or it would cause issues, and I would probably throw my laptop or something. But I mean, I can totally see. I mean, being a part of a writing degree in college, I saw other people that went about their work totally differently. Right? We're always critiquing each other. We're looking at how each other outline or don't outline, or how that impacts us. So I mean, I saw an array of functionality of preparing to write and how people go about writing and how people view drafts. Right? I'm sure plotters or people that plot heavily versus people that are in the middle versus people that are on the other spectrum. I'm sure they even go about drafting and how many drafts they do and how they go through those drafts totally differently.
Yeah.
Yes. Song of Bones is my first real try at writing, like finishing something. And the amount of drafts I went through, I've written the book like 4 times, each time with a completely different outline. Sometimes get halfway through, like, oh, let's cut the last half of the outline out because that I don't like where it's going. New outline, and I go from that direction. Oh, now the back end, it could be better, and cut that out. And so I mean, surgery. But now that I've finished projects, I know how to write a book now. If I were to do this again, I'd be so much more efficient. But I mean, I think for me, I would still always begin with an outline, and I would do all of my pantsing in my outline. I'd have all of my crazy, weird ideas in that initial first little weird document. And I don't think I lose that much. After I decide this is what I'm doing, as it'll solidify, I'll lose flexibility. But as I'm outlining, I think I'm as flexible as anyone, because I'm still in that blue sky moment where there's like, if I make a big change to the story, it's only like 70 words I got to go deal with back in the outline. So I don't. I mean, I don't. How does that stifle you? Like, what part of that frustrates you doing that outline? Like, I'm not talking about like a crazy big outline. I'm like this. Oh, the story. And of course, as you go into it, of course, you can go to crazy tangents as well. But I mean, I don't know. That's just my brain process anyway.
Well, I think that's what's interesting as artists is first of all, we have different mindsets, and then we have different ways we go about those mindsets, and then we have different ways we go about the art itself. So it's like when you add those all together, I'm sure no pantser, no plotter is even the same, really.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sure like you guys, you both plot, but you even plot totally differently. One plots on flashcards, so you even plot differently. I'm sure your minds work very differently. Your structures work differently. And I'm sure, I mean, do you both plot like your main character specifically, like their arc and outline, and then plot around them, kind of like a spider web or whatever that's called?
I usually start with character. And I let character inform the plot.
Hmm.
That's how I go.
That's funny. I'm actually the exact opposite. I do the story first, and then I think, okay, what kind of character would do this, this, and this? Because I'd always heard about people saying that, oh, the characters go off in directions they don't want them to. I said, no, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to decide what you're going to do, and I'm going to create you to do that specifically. Now, some people might kind of call that cheating, but I don't know.
I think it's just a different way about it. Do you both write like black and white characters, or do you write ever write morally gray, or does it impact the type of character that you write in that way?
They have very different motivations. In Garden Maze, it's a little bit more black and white. The knight character is more morally gray, but everyone else around him are either they're good or they're evil. Song of Bones, almost everybody's morally gray, except for 2 of the main characters. and seeing how these kind of naive characters interact with these more tricky characters is very fun. It's very when I'm getting stuck in the outline and the drafts are these interactions, trying to get them feel natural and not like I don't want them to feel forced. Everything's got to feel natural is what I'm trying to do. But what was your original question? I kind of went off on a tangent.
Just when you're plotting, if your characters are very black and white, or if they're morally gray, or if you're plotting your plot first, does that impact your character development in a precise way, or is it still very fluid?
A lot of times I do it specifically just in terms of what's needed. So like I said, as far as I'll have a certain character and maybe they do something and I say, well, maybe I should set that up. Maybe I should have a backstory that explains how they're able to do that. And I'll kind of work that in somewhere. So I do let the story kind of influence how the characters develop. And then as far as the first question, as far as morally gray, I guess in a way, because like when you said this, I realized it's sort of ironic because in the book I did, it's called My Soul Burned. The devil character, who normally is the epitome of evil, she does have a slight sympathetic take on her position. But of course, she's the devil, so you also don't know how much you could trust her. So you could argue she's pure evil. You could argue that she's not totally pure evil. But I do have two other characters that are very, very like just total good person, everything like that. And I just kind of thought that's sort of ironic that I have a totally good character, but not necessarily a totally evil character.
I will say that I feel like I missed out with totally pantsing book 1 of Tales of Battle in the way of world building, like that you guys might have excelled in, that I had to pack into book 2, which has been like a not necessarily a complaint, but some people are like, oh, it's a different vibe because there is more world building involved. Because I do think that I've learned that plotting at least world building, or at least having an idea of the world and the map of it in your head and hopefully on paper. I have to do it on paper because it's very visual. Is very beneficial. I realized that totally pantsing book 1 and not even realizing that I was going to do a series or doing anything with it in general.
Yeah.
And then having to draw the map after, which was awful. And then having to figure out everything within the map in that time frame, and then you're going back through your work and just trying to make sure it lines up is really, really tedious and definitely not a time saver by any means. So I have tried to be better at least of having an idea of what world I'm going into before I start writing in that way, because I totally squandered that. And then I did have to pack it into book 2 a lot more.
Yeah.
And then book 3, I hope, is less packed than book 2 and like a nice blend, but part of the learning curve, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, KW down here, he has a fun method.
Okay.
Similar to Nathan, he plots the story, then the character arcs. Once he has the main structure, he tends to pants the inner scenes with his parameters he's set.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Because like I said, my outline is like just very like one sentence. It'll be like, and I actually have numbers. Like number 1, this scene happens. Number 2, this scene happens, and so on and so forth. And then I'll expand, like I said, in terms of developing characters, developing relationships. To your point, I actually haven't done world building yet because my stories so far, I have 2. I have one that's out and one that's not out yet, but both of them are very, very just character focused. It's about like one person and just kind of everything they're going through. So they're actually very eternalized. Like if they were to be movies, they could actually be very, very low budget movies because it's all like, it's like 90%, maybe even 95% just psychological.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Timothy,
So kind of
after
more
going
like a play?
through the
sorry, what?
process. Sorry.
I'll let Isaac go first.
We all kind of
go first.
Well, I had a question. So after going through the process of that world building, do you find pantsing in that world now easier now that you have a solid place to play in?
Yeah, I think after building the map, well, then I added another half of the world halfway. After I finished like 3 drafts of my book, I added another half of the world and added another half of the novel. So that was a little bit messy in general. But I do think I learned a lot from that And from people, I mean, I had 25 beta readers or something from
Wow.
draft 1 to draft, I don't even know, whatever, 10 or whatever it was. And I wrote that whole one on paper and then reiterated it into Word and everything. I do think that going forward, I still pantsed a lot, especially book 2. Book 5, not as much. I will say, I will agree with you on your post in that way. Book 5, I actually had a clear, because I wasn't going to do a book 5. And I really missed my characters, and I was like, oh, I want to bring them all back. So I do think I had a much clearer idea in my head of where I wanted it to end, how I wanted it to go, and just like the characters in general, how it was going to impact them and what I was going to throw at them. So I do think that the pantsing changed. I think book 1, total pantser, book 2, kind of, but trying to be a little more secure in my world building. Book 3, trying to flesh it all out. And book 4 is a standalone that plays into book 5. And I think that was actually a lot more heavily plotted, I guess, because that part of the world and what I wanted this to do there, but still the main plot was pantsed. There was one part that I plotted in my head, which was like the 2 brothers, but it was not good plotting. It was like, I have this brother and I want this lost brother to be this, and I want them to connect somehow. That was kind of the only thing I plotted in my head. And then everything else I just kind of went with.
Gotcha. So you had that key situation and relationship in mind. Like that was a solid idea, but everything else around it was up to not interpretation, but into exploration.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was, I don't even know why I did it. I remember reading something and I was like, huh, I really shouldn't have. I'm kind of afraid for book 4 because growing up on an island, I should know a lot more about boats and sailing and terminology. I know jack squat, which is something I did not realize until I wrote it. But I just really wanted to do something with like islands and boats because I grew up on one. And I really wanted this weird, wonky pirate character because that's something I didn't have in books 1 through 3. I think it's because I was reading Julius Caesar and I was like, I want pirates randomly just because he went and killed all the pirates. And I was like, I want to add pirates in my book now. So I guess in that way I plotted.
You could have your pirate's lack of nautical knowledge be part of his character.
I probably should have. I think it was a mix of Caesar and Redwall, because obviously there's a lot of sailor stuff in Redwall, and I was like, I want to pay some tribute to Redwall, and I have like a Greenwall Abbey in there to pay like some minute tribute.
That's fun. Yeah.
So it's kind of just like wonky.
I often wonder what Brian Jacques would read.
Huh?
What was he taking from? Because he had influences.
That's actually weird thing about that, because it would be Redwall falls somewhere in between like children's books and gothic horror almost in some ways. So it's like
dramatic fantasy, some King Arthur kind of feeling stuff, and
like King Arthur.
He was not reading Lord of the Rings,
and I don't know what would have influenced the animals. Really,
Wind in the Willows, maybe, or was that contemporary?
Huh? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe a mix of King Arthur and then something darker, obviously, because Redwall's got
he wrote Redwall because he volunteered to read at an orphanage with a bunch of kids who were blind. It was an orphanage for blind children. He didn't like any of the books. So I wonder why he didn't like the books and what made him write Redwall. Like, he was clearly thinking of some book from his childhood that he loved that these kids would like. So animals, definitely because they're kids. Violence, because I guess he liked violence.
Right.
And his storytelling voice is very visual and very fun and very clear for these kids who can't see. So yeah, so I like I also love Peter S. Beagle, who did The Last Unicorn. And I read somewhere what books inspired him, and these old books I've never heard of. I have them in different shopping carts. Need to buy them just to see what made him tick, what turned him into the writer that he was. So I want to do the same thing for Brian Jacques. I'd like to Tolkien. He just read like translations of Beowulf or whatever.
Well, I would love to see what their plotting versus pantsing look like, because Tolkien's obviously a mess. His was obviously all over the place.
Oh man, Yeah.
But Brian Jocks, I feel like, was really precise because he had
He
specific
had
animals,
his
specific
pattern. He did.
roles, and specific things, and specific animals that were bad, specific animals that were good, and like very particular and set up, and with their own specific cultures, almost like the hares. So that's, I assume it was densely plotted in that way, at least. So I'd be
Mhm.
curious.
KW says, when I write the character arc. If multiple characters, complete them all. Then I mix the chapters/scenes together, sometimes inner chapters, to meet the story needs and timeline finesse.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, I always have to do character first. I got to figure out all their arcs, and then I figure out what's a good plot for this person with this problem. What's the perfect plot just to put him through the ringer? What would be the worst thing to happen to him, and what plot fits, and what world fits that problem? So I know some people, like, they have the idea of the cool plot, like this thing happened, this thing's happened. I have outlines that are like that, but since I've started really going at it, I really like the character first method. I don't know if I'll stick with that forever. I'm sure some ideas will require me to go back to plot first. I don't
Yeah.
know. Someday I'll be so wise and I'll be able to have so many strong opinions.
It's kind of interesting because I'm actually surprised I don't do that. Being like I said, like the two stories that I've done are just so character heavy. I'm actually really surprised I didn't do it that way. Like I think most people would think I did it that way.
Right. That'd be a fun experiment to do, like for a shorter thing. To try.
See, for me, for my dense book that I still have to edit and I'm terrified to, I watch a lot of war videos at the gym, and I watch them specifically for that book, but in general because I just like them. I like strategies and stuff. And I was like, man, I really want to incorporate this. So I like kind of built my world, or didn't build my world around that, but built that as a heavy part of my world that I enjoy, which turned out to not really make much sense because I didn't actually do that much battling in the novel like I had anticipated. But I did have like the ideas of, I want a more Native American character. I want a really like badass Chinese female character. And I did have her storyline. Her storyline was the only thing I actually had. And it totally deviated from what it was supposed to be. Because I had an A to B, but then I didn't have anything after. And that's basically how it worked. And then I had an empire that I wanted to resemble Persian Roman-esque empire. And that was literally my outline for this 150,000 word book that I wrote. Pretty much was it. And it was all in my head. I didn't write any of it down, but.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, you're doing your outline. And then, you pants it out.
That one is probably my heaviest outline. That like 20 sentences probably on a page.
Hey, as long as it helps you reach your goal.
Yeah, I mean, it turned into 150,000 words. Haven't decided if they're good or not yet, but
yeah, that's the scary, tricky part.
So, Timothy, I remember there was something you were gonna ask me, and then do you remember what it was?
The way you were explaining it sounds like you almost like a play, almost like a almost like a play in the way that it. Well, now I'm trying to think of exactly how you mentioned it because we deviated. Stop. But it almost sounded like the visual of a play.
Oh yeah, because I was mentioning that it could be low budget because there wasn't like a whole lot of fighting or going to other places. Like it was like all super like character internal. So yeah, or even a play. It could definitely both of them could definitely be done as a play.
Yeah. More drama, less set pieces.
Yeah. Well,
I like that, honestly. I took a play class too. It was called like 10-minute plays. Mm-hmm. So we had to actually go through that. And I really stop it before I rip your nose off. I wouldn't actually do that to anybody watching. I love her. Just silly threats. But I like that concept, and I actually like reading. I prefer reading styles like that. Not that I don't like, I'm reading Wheel of Time right now, so obviously I also like to read very drawn out 20 pages of nothing happening, but I also really love that, like a more visualizing as a play more.
Yeah.
I respect it, and I like reading that style often.
Cool.
I'm trying to remember if I've read anything that was. Well, I read I read a book called Whalefall.
Willfall?
Whalefall, like
Oh,
a dead whale falling. You know, a whale fall.
Okay.
It's about this kid who's getting over the death of his father. They had a big falling out before his dad died, and his dad. Welcome, Mike Molman. Ugh,
whoa! Mike came to
what?
join us. Oh yeah, it's too big for Mike. It's one book is double what Mike is willing.
But the entire story takes place because this kid gets eaten by a whale on accident.
Oh,
So
Like
the
Job from
whole
the Bible.
story, he's like in this whale's stomach.
Is it like Job from the Bible then?
Way worse.
Huh.
Way
So it's like
worse.
Job from the Bible, but like horror-y.
Yes, it was fantastic, amazing.
Awesome. I love
So
that actually.
the chapters weren't titled. They were the titles of the chapters were how much oxygen he had left in this tank,
That's pretty
Oh,
creative.
and it
I
was
like
going
that.
down as the book was going on, and
Huh.
he would have these flashbacks to arguments with his dad or life before he was eaten by a fish, and it was fantastic. He starts to like hallucinate a little bit because he's really low. He's turns oxygen way down, and the
oh, gee.
whale itself is talking to him and trying to coach him how to get out of the whale. The
Stop
whale
adding stuff
is
to my TBR, Isaac. It's already too long. Ah,
it's a
I
nice
like
short
that.
little book. It's not too long
Okay.
either. It is
Okay.
Mike Molman approved.
I like the whole concept actually. That
I
as
think
a
they're
whole
making a
thing.
movie. I think Josh Brolin's in it.
Oh, I do love him too.
He's
That
playing
that
the
gets me
dad
stoked.
and the whale because the whale speaks to him like kind of as his dad.
Well, he's also got like the best voice, one of the best voices for voice acting, so it makes sense. I will say, as far as plays go, everybody should read The Mountaintop, just because that play is incredible.
The Mountaintop.
Yeah, it's based on Martin Luther King, but it like brings in the some of the. It's like the day before he gets shot or whatever, the night before he gets shot. I actually didn't have to, but I actually emulated it and did like, or no, we did have to. It was like a prompt, and we had to emulate the same thing, like write a 10-minute play about the night before someone dies or whatever. And I did Alexander Hamilton. Yep, which is cool because he just tweeted me the other day, so pretty fun.
Living large.
I know. I was like, Alexander Hamilton, what the? But The Mountaintop, well, I also got to see it, so maybe it's just more powerful to me. But it's really cool. It's like the night before Martin Luther King gets shot or whatever, and it brings in some of his like real life experience, and it's like this tiny little play. But I think that's where I got the admiration for like really short and sweet reading to some, because I really love both styles to a point, but sometimes just like that short and sweet and like that punch, just the constant punch of this is everything that matters. You don't need to like draw it out. You don't need this craziness. It's just like this, and it's, I don't know. I love both, but sometimes it just is really fluid that way.
There was a show I saw several years ago called The Booth at the End. It's on Amazon, I believe. And the entire TV show takes place at this little booth in this little diner. And it's this guy sitting down with a notebook. And people come up, they sit down across from him. And they say, I have this problem. I want this girl to fall in love with me. Or I need $20,000. Or I wish my daughter's sick and she's dying. He says, okay. He opens up his little notebook. He says, you need to steal 20 things from strangers. He closes the book. He says, go do it and come tell me what happens. And they're like, what?
Huh.
Like, yeah, do that and everything will work out good for you. So that person goes, next person, like, I want this person to fall in love with me. Like, okay, you need to kidnap a child. Closes the book. Go do it. Tell me what happens. So all these people go off and you don't see what they do. They just come back to the booth and they just talk about what happened. It is the most enthralling thing you've ever seen. It is so freaking good.
Interesting.
It's called The Booth at the End.
So, like, you don't have to spoil anything. I'm just curious. Do they ever explain why he's telling them to do this stuff?
They got 2 seasons and it was canceled.
Ugh.
The second season was starting to hint at how it works, but they got canceled.
Ah.
Which it's such a tiny little show; it couldn't be that expensive to make.
Yeah, I don't know. They're real weird about that with the streaming stuff. Like, as far as what gets canceled and what doesn't. Like, to my recollection, and I might be wrong, I don't think Sandman's getting picked up, even though that thing was huge on Netflix.
Because of that. Mr.
Well, I was actually just
Gaiman.
thinking because I rewatched Rome last month, and it got canceled and rushed because it was so expensive at the time, like 2005 or whatever it was. And I was like, man, if this show came out 8 years later, it would have been fine. So, like, some of it's also timing. It is hard to know all the complexities of why they choose one over the other, especially shows that are. I mean, you read, and I actually do. I'm going to get hated for this, but I do like the Rings of Power. But it is interesting that the Rings of Power had almost the equivalent ratings of Wheel of Time or whatever, one of the other shows that got canceled, and they kept one but not the other. So I don't really understand how those complexities work.
Well, even if Lord of the Rings show is doing worse, I think I still would keep it because it has the Lord of the Rings name. If I was like an executive, like,
well, I think it also costs less because I read that the magic in
Wheel of Time. I've never heard of this. It's promise it's popular. Like, oh,
that's
okay,
true.
I'll take your word for it. Lord of the Rings, he's heard of.
That's true. The magic in Wheel of Time I know costs a lot, and the costumes comparatively apparently cost more than what they cost in Lord of the Rings, which I guess makes sense because not everybody in Lord of the Rings has costumes, or they do, but not as elegant, I should say.
Right.
Or Rings of Power. In the Rings of Power specifically.
Rings of Power,
yeah. The costumes aren't as like elegant or overdone.
Yeah.
But I do think, the Lord of the Rings has a bigger following. I mean, I just went to New Zealand last year, and they, Hobbiton, they were like, oh yeah, they tore actually it all down, and then they came back and rebuilt it, and now they kept it. Because it became so popular. And they said when they took it as a tourist thing, the people that own the farm, they were like, oh yeah, it'll die out in 5 years. And obviously it has not died out. People have their weddings there, and it's way bigger now.
They're coming out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah, JR, I can respect you again.
Well, I hope that your next season is even better. I hope that it keeps getting better and better and better.
I mean, it has. Maybe that's one of the big differences is Rings of Power, the people actually listened to what people were saying and tried to do better. Whereas yes, they deviated from the work because they have no choice, obviously.
Yeah, but they got to make things up. I mean,
right. But they held some true.
You're not Tolkien. That's like almost impossible to.
Well, and when you don't have the rights, but they held some stuff true. Whereas Wheel of Time deviated so much, maybe. I mean, I know that was a big issue for people. I mean, I watched it before the books. Now I'm reading the books, rewatched it. So,
yeah, I've only read the first Wheel of Time book.
Oh, you're missing out.
I loved it. But there's so many of them, and there's so many things to read. I will read them all one day.
I will admit that because I'm, especially as a linear reader, I have a really hard time deviating from a series. I like to read straight through. And I think I'm in the very minute portion of those people because everybody else I know reads 1 or 2 or 3 books at a time and jumps around.
I'm a crazy person. I would check a book out of the library. Like I think I got like one of what's the guy's name? One of the Tad Williams big chunkers.
Oh, I love Tad Williams.
And I read halfway through. I'm like, oh, I got to return it. I returned it 3 or 4 years later. I'm like, oh, I should finish that. I take it off the shelf, remembered about where I was, found my spot. Okay, and I'm reading. I'm starting up again. And I was very able quickly to remember what was going on.
Huh.
So I'm a chaos man. I'll start a book, get halfway through, like I'll finish it later. Start a completely different book, come back to the other book 3 years later, and finish it up. And
see, I can't do that. I like to be really just straight on. I don't know. I
think you are the correct human in this. I think I am wrong.
Yeah, but I think most people read like that. What about you, Nathan? Do you read like that, or do you read linear?
All right. You know, I probably shouldn't say this being I'm author. I don't read a whole lot.
I have to force myself.
Yeah.
Really? I love it. Every night I read.
Yeah. It's basically, it's just for me, I'm a very visual person. So like I have a really hard time remembering characters because even though they describe them, if I don't actually see their face, I have a really hard time remembering them. So most of the time I read books based on things where I already know who the characters are. Like when the name comes up, I'll
Interesting.
recognize it.
You would hate Game of Thrones then,
Yeah.
the book, because it's just a plethora. Actually, you'd hate my book too. Plethora of characters. So
Yeah. But as far as like linear stuff, I'm actually like that with TV shows too. Like a lot of times I won't watch a TV show until it's done because I don't want to get attached to a TV show and then it stops.
that's
right,
fair.
right.
And that's the problem with the Wheel of Time is it's so big. I mean, so many books, so thick that I haven't had time to read. I mean, I just won 3 indie novels. And I'm like, sorry guys, you're on the back burner for Wheel of Time because I can't not go through it because I will be plagued by and this is what I was telling you guys earlier. I'm stubborn and my mind is weird. I will be plagued by what is Rand doing? I'll be reading another book and I'll be like, but what is Rand doing? What's going to happen next? What are the Forsaken up to? And my mind will be consumed by that book until I know. Because I'd be a terrible cat. I would die so quickly as a cat. Because I'm so curious. So I can't really focus unless I know what's happened.
I am currently reading a book called A Deepness in the Sky by Werner Vinge. He died last year, sadly. A really, really old man. He wrote the best sci-fi book ever called...
Oh, that's high praise. I think people that like Dune might come
Oh,
at
it's
you
better
for
than
that.
Dune. It's better than Dune. It's not as artful as Dune, but it is better than Dune. This one is... I haven't finished it yet. It might be equal or a little bit better. But the first one's called A Fire in the Deep.
Oh, I like that.
It's this idea that you have the universe. The closer you get to the center of the universe, the less technology works. And the slower space travel is. But as you get to the edge of the universe, things are faster. Technology works so much better, and you get like godlike AI entities, but they don't work if they go deep. So Earth was in the deep, and then humans slowly expanded. And once they got out to the fringes, they go, oh, and everything exploded, and there's so many alien races out there, and so there's this ancient robotic AI bacterial god thing that they accidentally wake up, and it starts spreading through the outside because it can go so fast. But people think that there is a planet that has something on it that might fight it naturally. So everyone's racing into the deep where things get really, really slow and things stop working, and they're trying to get down to this one planet. It is so good. It has the best aliens I've ever read. It has the best, like, the top 2 aliens ever are in the book. I don't want to spoil how they work or what they are, but they're so creatively depicted, and the way that they think and their personalities are all alien and very, you can understand it, and it's weird, and it's so good.
Well, I will say, because I'm about to sign off, that is to me why I would like to plot and be better at it. And I want to make that a goal going forward because I think you can't write. Not that you can't. I shouldn't say can't because you can.
You can do a lot of rewriting.
Right. I think that amount of precision and world building, universe building, I suppose, takes a certain level of plotting to really do it efficiently. And like you're saying like that, I feel like that about Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I think, well, that's more complex. What you're talking about is more complex. But I just think building these really, really intense precisions is something that I, as a pantser, do miss out on. Not that they don't come about naturally, maybe, but having that really, really pinpointed focal points and very precise and cut and dry. And then you build your world, you build what you're writing into that, I think does make a different complexity and a different depth to the writing. Whereas if you're pantsing it, it might come off more, I don't want to say willy-nilly, but just the precision isn't just a bullseye.
I think if you set up the rules of the world and the universe before you start pantsing, I think
Right.
you can get something as cool and complex as Fire in the Deep, but you need to understand how the world works, and the characters need to understand how the world works, and maybe you have some secrets in mind you're just holding. So I think you can do crazy things as long as the world you're playing in has been built at least in your head.
Right. And I think that's where, at the end of this, I think that's where I have grown from a pure pantser to a plotter, is going back to your post. I mentally plot my world now a little bit.
Yeah.
I would
Okay,
like
yeah.
to actually plot it on paper or on a document now. And I would like to do that a little further. I do now with my maps, actually, I guess. I do draw out my maps before I start my books now. But I will say in your post that you are right in that form, is that there's not pure pantsing, or maybe pure pantsing isn't a great way to go about it.
I'm not sure it's possible to pure pants.
Right. That's what I mean, is that I don't know if it's like a you can purely, especially a series. I don't know if you can purely pants a series. Maybe you can if someone's incredibly gifted, but
I'm sure people have, and maybe they're amazing.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure if
I
you're
think George R. R. Martin
fantastic
pants
creator.
actually.
Oh, for sure. But I think he also had an idea afterward. I mean,
Yeah.
there's too much stuff to not. But I will say that I have found that, as far as at least world building for me, I do have something in mind. And I do generally now have a focal point of at least A to B, where A to B is, whether that's a quarter of the way, halfway, or full way, it's there somewhere.
Hmm.
So I will agree, not a pure pantser anymore. Talking it out has proved me wrong, I suppose.
Well, you can stay 99% a pantser.
Maybe
Hey.
I'd like to move down to like 70 at least, because I've seen some issues in my pure pantsing that I cannot necessarily rectify without elsewise. So
Yeah.
I would like to
Use the tools that help you, throw out the ones that don't.
Yep.
And may your pants never fall down.
Joke's on you, because I'm not wearing pants. That's why it's up here.
That's cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this. We went a little bit over than our 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But that was a fun conversation. Thanks for jumping on, y'all.
It
Yeah.
was. Thank you.
So I think about the first 30 minutes we were on topic though, and then the last 20 minutes we just started talking about books and TV shows.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Welcome to me. That's what I posted the other day, is don't invite me to something, because I will throw it all down the drain. Even there's a lot, I'm in like 2 different author chats, and they're always like spot on, and I always end up throwing a wrench in, because I just am a little ball of chaos. I can't handle myself.
That's good. A little chaos is good.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Small amount.
I'm too much of it, but I appreciate you both. Thanks for having me on. I'm starving because I'm on West Coast time. So
Okay.
see y'all.
See you guys
Bye,
later.
JR. Love you. Shout out to JR Montalvo.
Bye, JR. I hope